Hello. Thank you for your interest in this presentation and in the carbon farm planning process. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of developing a carbon farm plan. I'm going to talk about the carbon farm plan template options that are available to planners, the information that planners will need to write a carbon farm plan, the tools that they can use to acquire that information, and how to use the carbon farm plan templates. As you may know, there are two carbon farm plan template options available to planners. On the left-hand side, we see the standalone carbon farm plan, and on the right-hand side, we see the resource management system plan with carbon element. I would encourage you to watch our other video for more information about these, or to take a moment to look at each template and see which fits your needs better. These templates are intended as guides for planners. You're encouraged to add or remove sections depending on the farmer's goals and context. So what information do you, the planner, need in order to begin the carbon farm planning process? You're going to need the typical information that you would require when undertaking a resource management system plan, for example, a resource inventory. You'll also need information about management history, the equipment and fuel that a farmer is using, and any soil data that they have available. From other sources, you'll be incorporating climate data, ecological site descriptions, and other information related to existing conditions on the farm. I'm now going to talk about some of the tools that you can use when completing a carbon farm plan. On the left-hand side, we see the PRISM tool from Oregon State University, which allows planners to get very fine-grained climate conditions data for the site of a farm. On the right-hand side, you see the Web Soil Survey, which allows planners to give farmers an overview of the soil types and conditions present on their farm. And now I want to talk in more detail about the online tools that are available to resource planners for evaluating carbon sequestration and greenhouse gas mitigation from existing farm management practices and proposed conservation practices. The first of these tools is Comet Planner. This is a relatively simple web-based tool that planners can use to evaluate or estimate the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that will be reduced or the amount of CO2 that will be sequestered through a particular conservation practice. As you can see on the bottom right, this allows resource planners to give rough estimates of the amount of carbon dioxide equivalent that will be sequestered or mitigated through various conservation practices. In this case, incorporating a seasonal legume cover crop and reducing nitrogen fertilizer on 10 acres would lead to approximately 1 fewer ton of nitrous oxide emission per year. It's important to note that Comet Planner only includes a subset of conservation practice standards, so you may not find the practice you're looking for. Another option available to planners is the Washington Climate Smart Estimator. This tool is built on the Comet Planner data and models, but has a user interface that some may find easier to navigate. The third option is Comet Farm, which allows planners to provide much more detailed estimates of carbon sequestration and mitigation, but requires planners to get much more detailed management history from the farmer. Within Comet Farm, planners are able to compare several different management scenarios, allowing you to provide the farmer with more comprehensive information about potential management strategies. So, to summarize the similarities and differences between these tools, all three tools allow you to estimate annual greenhouse gas emissions and sequestration. All three incorporate a range of conservation practice standards, but only Comet Farm allows you to compare scenarios side by side and to incorporate different practices by farm management area. In addition to the climate, soil, and greenhouse gas emissions estimation tools discussed previously, you may also be interested in incorporating other evaluation tools in the carbon farm planning process. These could include things like a pasture condition score sheet or a forage balance worksheet. You may also be interested in providing the farmer with a more detailed estimation of the carbon stored on their farm in above and below ground biomass. There are tools linked within the carbon farm plan templates to allow you to do that. So how do you, the planner, use carbon farm plan templates? When you're looking within the carbon farm plan templates, you'll see three different kinds of text. On the upper left-hand side, you see an example of a block of text that you should leave intact. This incorporates technical and scientific information that's relevant to you in the planning process, but which also helps to provide farmers with the broader context and purpose of carbon farm planning. On the upper right-hand side, you'll see an example of text where you, the planner, need to select several options from a range of options depending on what you actually did. That could include selecting the actual evaluation and assessment tools that you used, or selecting between Comet Planner and Comet Farm. Finally, the remainder of the plan is text that you, the planner, should be editing and filling in throughout the planning process. So the sections that you should fill in are marked with the blue text Template Suggestion and are often in bulleted lists. The bullet points give you a sense of the kind of information you should be looking for and the kinds of information you should be providing to the farmer through the Carbon Farm Plan. Finally, I want to talk briefly about what a finished plan might look like. Here you see an example of the Record of Decisions page. This table lists every conservation practice that was recommended through the planning process, the amount of land that the practice is intended to be incorporated on, and the benefits to the farmer from the incorporation of those conservation practices in terms of greenhouse gas emissions mitigated or carbon dioxide sequestered through the implementation of each practice. If you'd like to see examples of finished carbon farm plans, these can be found on the Center for Technical Development's website. Finally, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or to a resource planner at the conservation districts which were involved in the formulation of these carbon farm plan templates, which were Cascadia, King, San Juan Islands, and Whatcom conservation districts. We'd also like to thank the Washington State Conservation Commission for their support of this project. Thank you.